Alright, here we are we're gonna do some Masters 25 draft today. This ought to be fun. I've done 3 of these drafts already. I went 2-1 in each of them, and each of my losses were pretty comical. So, the first time I drafted blue-black control with no removal. Ended up losing in 3 games to a guy who assembled Horseshoe Crab plus Heavy Arbalest. I was able to, in the 3rd game, counter a Horseshoe Crab after he had resolved Arbalest, and he had just drawn another one right off the top after that. So that was that. And then I drafted blue-red spells after that, which was basically blue-red control. I had a lot of removal, a lot of outbursts and kindles and stuff like that, and I just lost to some severe mana screw in that one. And then the 3rd one, which was just yesterday, was kind of a combination of both. It was Grixis control, and I was splashing red basically for 2 Chandra's outbursts and 2 skeleton eyes. So splashing the double red card was kind of interesting, but I had Charletooth Cougar to Mountain Cycle, and then after that I had like a Prophetic Prism and stuff like that. Alright, so this is not a Phantom draft. So if we open Cash Money, we are going to take it. So in this pack we see Chalice of the Void, which is probably second most expensive card in the pack, or in the set. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up this Chalice. If the Chalice, or if this was Phantom, or the Chalice wasn't in the pack and there was just an unplayable rare or something like that, I would probably take either Outrage or Edict. I think Outrage is better. And Sigh of the Shinobi is also really solid. But yeah, we're gonna pick up this this Chalice here. Okay, cool. Alright, so we're gonna take this Chalice, put it right in our sideboard. Alright, so what do we got here? Is it Chemistry? What does this card do? Okay, so it's a spells guy. Exile a thing and then cast them all. So that's kind of cool effect. I mean, that's a pretty solid card. Can, exile a bunch of your Chandra's outbursts or kindles and stuff, but I feel like that takes a lot of work to set up, and this is a pretty fragile body. It doesn't really do anything otherwise, but I mean, I can see where it could be good, but it does take a while to turn on. Just like even to cast one spell, it's going to take you like 3 turns because you have to cast it and then exile something. I mean, I'm assuming you have 4 mana by that point, but so it'll probably take like 2 turns. But I think I'm just going to grab this Disfigure. There's not a lot really else in this pack that is, up to the power level of Disfigure, so we're going to take this card. Alright, so let's see. There's not a whole lot in this pack either that I really like. Nezumi Cutthroat's decent in an aggro deck. I really like Goblin War Drums. Being able to give your whole team menace is pretty solid, especially if you're turning guys sideways a lot. I think that black-red aggro is probably a fine deck. And there's really nothing else in this pack that I really like. Coral Helm Guide's pretty solid, but again, that's more if you're like a aggressive style deck trying to get through those last few points. So I'm just going to take the War Drums. Alright, so here we have a Sai of the Shinobi, which is pretty solid. There's Erg Raiders, which is decent, but not great. And then Hordling Outburst is really good if you can pick up like Trumpet Blasts and stuff later. And then there's Stamina and Abomination, which I like a lot. There's a Shoreline Ranger, which I've found to be a very solid card in those style of decks, like the control decks that I like to play. Just being able to get an island early, or cast it as a win condition later is pretty sweet. But yeah, with what I've got going so far, I think I'm just gonna take the Sai and we'll see what happens. Okay. So there's Nicol Bolas. I'm not particularly thrilled about this card. I mean, it costs 8, which I have gotten to in several of my draft decks before, but yeah. So then there's Browbeat, which is basically either a deal 5 or an ancestral, which is pretty solid. That's fair enough. But I like to have good mana, so I think I'm just going to take this Cougar. Alright, so there's another Nicol Bolas. Probably not playing that. There's a Skirk Commando, though. The Skirk Commando is pretty sweet. You can get, you could get your opponent, but, most of the time they're not going to be blocking your morphs and stuff, but, I mean, it works pretty well. The only other consideration in this pack was really like Ruthless Ripper, so I think we're just gonna snag this Skirk Commando here. Alright, let's see. So Death's Head Buzzard's decent for that style of deck. My only black card is Disfigure, and Timberpack Wolf is pretty good. There's also a Colossal Dreadmaw, which is very efficient at beating your opponent to death. Krosan Tusker is good, but I don't think that I really want that in the direction that I'm going, but maybe? I'm gonna just take the Tusker and see what happens. I'm only missing out on a Timberpack Wolf here, so I'm not really sure if that's a big loss. And there's a Watch Wolf in here, which is good, but I'm not in white. That's to say that it's not early enough for me to move into white, but I'm going to take Mog Flunkies, though. It's a good aggressive beater. And it pairs really well with things like Vampire Lacerator. Balduvian Horde is also a really solid card. You just maneuver it to a point where you don't really care what you're discarding, usually like a land. But if you curve out, then you just dump something. I had one of these in my blue-red spells deck, and it was great almost all the time until I ran up against really needing to cast the card that it discarded. I had a Quicksilver Dagger and a land in my hand. Alright, so we're just going to take another Lacerator here. We're just going to go full-on aggro. Alright, Soulblight Fangman is good, not great. Active Treason is good if you can pick up some sacrifice outlets, like the Phyrexian Ghoul, I believe it is. But I'm going to take the Hordling Outburst instead, and see if, at all possible, that we can pick up something like a Trumpet Blast. And Hordling Outburst works really well with Goblin War Drums. I actually had a couple of these. I had 3 Hordling Outbursts in my blue-red spells deck, and I had a Bident of Thassa. So that was pretty cool. Uncaged Fury over Active Treason. I don't think I'm playing either of them, but Uncaged Fury is still a decent trick. So what do we want to open? Probably not playing this. What would we like to see? I do not know. I'm not familiar enough with this set. I haven't even looked at the full spoiler or anything. I just pretty much hopped into a queue one day and said, well, I know what cards are good and that I want to play, and I know which aren't. So, okay, so there's a Niv Mizzet. Card is insane. There is also a lot of good playables for the deck that we're trying to build. Yeah, Niv plus Curiosity, which is also in this set, is infinite combo. You just pop a Curiosity on here and tap it to deal infinite, basically. Draw your entire deck and kill them. But there's a Murderer. There's also a Skeletonize, but Skeletonize I like more in like a control deck, because you are going to be, using like the 1/1 as a regeneration, blocker. Murder is just cheaper and it kills the guy that only deals 3. So I like Murder. I'll take this Murder. There's also Fallen Angel, Bloodhunter Bat, which are both good, solid cards. Oof, jeez. Ruric Thar. Interesting. So Ruric Thar is really, really good. 6 mana, just kind of win the game almost. It's generally going to be the biggest threat on the battlefield, and it's very painful to answer. But I don't think that I want to move into green. I may wheel it. If I wheel it, I will pick it up, but aside from that, I'm just going to take something on color. So I'm going to snag this Mesmeric Fiend. Mesmeric Fiend is a really great, just disruptive element that you want to have in some of these decks. Take their removal spell and things like that. Animar. Interesting. Yeah, I noticed that they put some of the commanders in the mythic slot. I got my Grixis control deck. I lost to Prosh because he made they make the 0/1 tokens on cast, and my hand had my deck had 3 Diabolic Edicts in it. So that was kind of heart-wrenching. I had 3 counterspells in my deck also, so I countered the Prosh, but it doesn't matter because the tokens are made on cast. So there's Urg Raiders and Crimson Mage. I like Crimson Mage a little bit more because just being able to give anything in your deck haste after you cast it is really good. Alright, so there's a good pickup there. Chandra's Outrage is good. Removal and the ping is relevant. Dealing 2 damage to them is really good. Okay, I can talk. Dusk Legion Zealot is pretty good too, but we're just gonna take this removal spell. Okay. So there's another Lacerator, another Cougar, which we probably don't want, nor do we need. Swiftfoot Boots is pretty good. Just being able to do a Lightning Greaves impression here and let your creatures get in there is good. It kind of works the same as Crimson Mage, and this doesn't do anything by itself really, so I'd rather just have another creature. Okay. So there's Ruthless Ripper here, which I like. I think that it's a good card. You can play it as a morph, and then if they block, then you flip it, deal them 2, and then kill something. So I like this card as an offensive and a defensive card, so I'm just going to pick this up here. There's another Scythe the Shinobi, but there's a Mog Flunkies in here as well. So I'm going to take the Flunkies, pairs really well with our 4 1-drops. Alright, here's a Phyrexian Ghoul, that's a good card. Works really well with the Hordeling Outburst that we've picked up. If we picked up any Active Treasons too, those will be good. I don't want to overload on weapons. 1 is good, just to kind of have that, utility. And Crimson Mage is great, but I think that Phyrexian Ghoul is going to be better with the Hordeling Outburst strat, and as well as if we can pick up some things like Active Treasons and so on. So I'm going to take the Skeletonize, but I'm going to move it to the sideboard. Probably not playing it, but we'll see. You don't want to overload on removal in these decks. But it is still a good removal spell. So, alright, here's another Mog Flunkies. So we'll pick that up. I think the Flunkies are one of the more aggressive cards in the set. Okay, so we're gonna move this Corrosion Tusker over here, and we're not messing around with that. So the deck looks pretty good so far. Just take a Nettle Sentinel. Okay, and sure, Assembly Worker. In that blue-red spells deck, I had 7 Phantasmal Bears, and I'm like, thinking to myself, you know, I just hope that nobody, you know, has just some cheap style thing like Crimson Mage, for example, except this is you control, but something to that effect with just a cheap activated ability. But I don't think that there's really many cheap activated abilities in the set on creatures, at least from what I saw. So, you know, it is what it is. Alright, so there's another War Drums, and there's an Outrage, and there's an Abomination. But there is a Chupacabra, and I have yet to do actually any Rivals of Ixalan draft, but it doesn't take a genius to figure out that 2/2 kill a guy is really good, especially if you can, you know, kill a guy and then use something like stamina, whatever that thing is called, supernatural stamina, and then let it die and then come back and then kill another thing. So, Laquatus' Champion. This card is pretty good. It's almost impossible to kill with regeneration, and it's a 6/3 that just deals 6 damage when it comes into play. Ideally, you want to cast it on 7 mana, and I mean, my curve is so low. The other consideration would be taking like an Unearth or a Kindle. Unearth bringing back, you know, Mog Flunkies, or, you know, Phyrexian Ghoul or something is really good, but man, I don't know. I think even just as a 6 mana deal 6, this card is fine, because I should be able to just, you know, put on the pressure and get there. So I'd have to be pretty hard pressed to not take something like this here. There's a Pyroclasm, which kills my entire deck pretty much. I'm just gonna pick up 4th Lacerator here. Deadly Designs. So that's a really lengthy thing. 10 mana, kill 2 guys, basically. No, 12 mana, kill 2 guys. Yeah, pass. Another Crimson Mage, which is alright. Enthralling Victor is pretty good. It's a mini threat, and I'm not sure how many creatures my opponents will be playing with power 2 or less, but it's kind of worth it. There's an Unearth in this pack and a Supernatural Stamina, both of which work really well with some of the stuff that I have in my deck already. But I think I'm just going to take the Victor. Being able to sack a guy with Ghoul is pretty good, and just being able to steal their blocker to get through is also pretty good too. So, oof. This pack is really solid, actually. A lot of good stuff for what we're looking to do here. There's a Balduvian Horde, which is just a gigantic creature. There's another Disfigure, which is just good unconditional removal for little dorks. Just cheap 1 mana, get it out of there. And there's a Phyrexian Ghoul, which works really well with, you know, my little dorks and stuff and things like that. This is a tough pick, actually. Man, I don't know. I think I'm just gonna take this Disfigure. I think I've got enough creatures. I've got 17 guys, and I just want to have a little bit of removal just to be able to get through. So, all right. So here's Act of Treason, which I don't have any of yet. Then there's also Genju of the Spires, and this card's really solid. Just turn your lands in the late game into a 6/1 every time you need to bash, basically. It kind of helps to, mitigate flood and things like that. The problem with this is that, I'm probably not going to be flooding a lot, and it doesn't trample. I thought that this card trampled, but it does not. It's just a 6/1. So I don't think that that's really where I want to be. I'm going to just take this Act of Treason, and I'm going to probably board it in against decks that are, playing reasonably large creatures. So here are the picks between Thresher Lizard and Bloodhunter Bat. I kind of like Bloodhunter Bat just as a, ping for 2, get in the air type thing. Thresher Lizard hits harder, but it's easier to block, and but I don't know, it's a 4/4. I'm just going to take the Bloodhunter Bat. Being able to have reach and get in when you need to is always good. Alright, so I'm not playing Pyrohounds, Dark Ritual. This one's foil. I'm going to take the foil Dark Ritual, it's pretty cool. Oh wow, that's a really late War Drums and an Outrage. Outrage will fit very nicely into our deck. Take Pillage for the sideboard. Take nothing. Take a Survivalist. Oh wow. Jeez. Now unfortunately I don't really have a lot of stupid cards to bring back with this. I think that I just want to take a Crimson Mage here. And wow, that's a really late Balduvian Horde too. Alright, so our deck is... holy cow. Alright, well, we got pretty rewarded in that last little few picks there. Now we're really going to have to worry about what do we do. Okay, let's see here. So we definitely don't want this Cougar. It's just mountain cycling, but we don't care. I'm gonna cut the Soulblight Flamekin. Let's see. So, okay. All right, so we've got 4 Lacerators, which is really solid. I'm not sure if we really want Ruthless Ripper. The Lacerators pair really well with the Flunkies. 2 Crimson Mages is great because you can just give Flunkies, or give itself, like if you go turn 2 Flunkies, turn 3 Mage with an extra red, you can give itself haste and just get in for 5, which is really good. Mesmeric Fiend works really well just as disruptive element. You can take their Pyroclasm or whatever it is. Then Ghoul works really good with Victor. It also works really well with Mesmeric Fiend because you can actually just permanently get a card. Because if this isn't attacking, then what's the point? And it also works really well with Hordeling Outburst. Huh. Well, let's see. I'm almost debating whether or not I want the War Drums, but giving everything Menace is very good. Hmm. Yeah, being able to get things menace is a good idea. But then again, I've got 2 disfigure, 2 outrage, and a murder. So I mean, giving things menace is great and all, but you know, what are they gonna block with when I just kill everything? But realistically, I've got, you know, 5 removal spells. That's not going to be enough to kill everything that they play. 6 removal, but so that's not good enough. So I want the drums. Just surprising alpha strike and everything is also good too. So I probably want to cut. I want to stay low to the ground and aggressive if I can. So maybe we cut the Enthralling Victor and see if they have things worth taking after board, because that's why we have this act in the board too. If our opponent's playing green and something just like has no targets for this, then this is just a 3/2 for 4, which is horrible. So maybe we just kind of like play these by ear type thing. Bloodhunter Bat is good. It's our only flyer. Balduvian Horde is big. And Champion is expensive. There's Skirk Commando. That's really good for getting in with like the drums and for tricking him as you morph. But I don't know. I mean, this card was a lot better in its format because I mean there's a lot of morphs in this, you know, set like this. Yeah. So I'm looking to cut like 2 more cards, I think. Play 16 lands. Maybe I just cut the Champion and bring it in against decks that go later. I mean, I just don't want to be stranded with a 6-drop in my hand. So maybe we cut that and we cut the Horde, because it would be just like kind of dumping my hands. Huh. Yeah, maybe we just go like balls to the wall type aggro in game 1 and then like reassess. I'm probably cutting Hordeling Outburst actually. I don't have like a Biden of Thassa to make this like work really well with War Drums or to just get stuff. I mean, it works really well with Phyrexian Ghoul, but I have 1 Ghoul, and on its own it's not great because you can't really attack with it, and you know, I'm not getting any bonus out of doing anything like that. So yeah, we'll trim there, and yeah, all right. We'll just go, yeah, 8 and 8. And we'll try this. We'll just try like a super aggressive like curve stops at 4 type thing, and just try to get them. And then like if we go to the later game, we have, you know, a lot of options to bring in for, you know, when we really need to play like a longer game and stuff like that. We can board in another land and cut some of like the low stuff if he's got a lot of like 1/3s and stuff that I can't block, stuff like that. So alright, well, we're gonna try to roll with this, and I don't know what's up with the graphics here. I just keep clicking and it's like being weird. Anyway, we're gonna try with this, so sit tight, we'll be back for round 1.